Good evening all, welcome to Goodison Park, where Norwich's losing start to the season has continued. A sixth successive defeat, a 2-0 loss here at Everton. I can just see Rafa Benitez leaving Goodison Park, no doubt very happy, but it wasn't as comfortable as the scoreline may suggest. The Everton fans were a little bit angsty at times, and the 1,600 Norwich fans that were here today were encouraged by certainly elements of it, but it's kind of same old story, unfortunately. Self-inflicted wounds, making unforced errors, really. Maybe unforced is a little bit harsh, but very fine margins certainly today. And speaking to Tim Krul after the game, he was very quick to point out that he knows that fans are sort of sick of hearing positives and excuses and things like that. So he was really keen to avoid trying to paint too much of a positive picture. But he was adamant that they are going to get there, and that this game showed that they are still a good team, that they are still moving in the right direction. And how they played either side of half-time and for a sustained spell of the second half, there were lots of encouraging signs, and they had some real chances as well. The biggest one, which will probably stick in people's mind, was a Ben Gibson header. Although I just had a quick look at the highlights on the Sky Sports YouTube channel, and it didn't make the cut somehow, despite the fact that he was about 6 yards out. Kenny McLean whipped a free kick to the back post, and I think it just kept curling away from him, and his hands were on his head. He was absolutely gutted. He thought he'd finally got that goal for Norwich, and that would have levelled things at 1-1. It was an Andros Townsend penalty, which was separating the teams. 29th minute, Ozan Kabak was the man who was punished. I think it was a soft penalty, but ultimately, if the same thing unfolds against a Norwich player, I'm pretty sure City fans would want a penalty. Kabak misses the ball. It's clumsy, but there's not much contact at all. Basically, his studs end up sort of making contact with Alan's thigh, and the referee gives it. He goes across. VAR does the review. He goes across to the screen, and ultimately, they decide that it is a penalty. And although soft, I think it probably was a penalty. But in the first half, before Norwich came into it, and Everton sort of sat back maybe and invited Norwich onto them, and that was a mistake. They gave Norwich the encouragement that they needed. The possession stats were about 60-40 in Everton's favour after about half an hour. By full time, Norwich had more of possession. They had 53%. But for sort of the final stats, shots wise, Everton had 11 and 4 on target. Norwich had 10 and 2 on target, both of which were from Matthias Norman, who I think would take man of the match today. Max Aarons again did some really, really good things. I'm sure Everton fans will probably be talking about Max being their Seamus Coleman replacement long term again if you go on Twitter and search his name. I haven't done that yet. That's just an assumption. But in terms of ratings, nice and early in the verdict, because I don't think we've got too long here before they want us to leave the press box. So probably have to keep this fairly brief. Norman, Aarons and Krul, I'll give them all a 7. Krul had not the busiest of days, but dealt with a lot of his work. One really good late save at the end to deny Ben Godfrey at close quarters, which would have rubbed some salt in the wounds. And I think 3-0 would have been a bit of an unjust scoreline. I'll go 6s, Hanley, Gibson, Lys Malou, McLean and Sargent, and Pookie as well. I think Sargent and Pookie, there wasn't enough quality there. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I don't think they had a great amount of service. And they did both work hard. But similarly to Ida against Liverpool on Tuesday, I just don't think the three of them are making the ball stick enough. You know, there is not a Grant Holt presence up there who is going to protect that ball and really do. I think Sargent is working towards that, but he's not there yet. And there was a few sort of cheap concessions from him. And then I think Williams and Kabak, you've got to give them both 5s in the end. It's a bit harsh, but Williams was taken off after he got a booking after the goal, and there's a lot of good urgency from him. You can see there is ability there, but I think Daniel went for experience today in the changes that he made. He made 2 changes. He brought in Ben Gibson for Rashica, who had that injury scare. He stuck with the 3-5-2 that we'd seen in the Cup in midweek. So Gibson obviously comes onto the left alongside Hanley and Kabak in a back 3. And Billy Gilmore dropped to the bench and Lys Malou came back in. So overall, Daniel went for experience. And I think we probably will see Yanulis, particularly because of his height, at Burnley next weekend. I don't think Williams is quite doing enough at the moment. He hopefully will come good, but maybe just that rawness, that experience of now being into sort of a relegation battle rather than playing for Manchester United. He's not quite dealing with that well enough. There was one moment in the first half when he lost the ball and Varka turned away in disgust, really. He wasn't happy with that at all. So, that about wraps it for for the ratings. But yeah, 16 on the spin, isn't it? If you want to go back to the previous season, we already know about that record. I don't think you guys want that salt rubbed into the wound either, really. But 2 goals scored, 16 conceded. But if you look at the table, they're only 3 points off Newcastle in 17th as things stand. So it is painful. It is difficult. There are people who have lost patience now, and people who the sort of traditional reaction is, well, you've got to change your manager, you've got to change your head coach. That Daniel Farke is under big pressure now. There's no denying that. Daniel knows that. He doesn't need to be told that, doesn't he? And if they were to put in not just lose at Burnley, but if they were to put in a poor performance at Burnley and get bullied again, that is going to be a seriously uneasy international break for the club and for Farke. He knows that he will be under significant pressure then, and I guess they're going to have some crisis talks at that stage, and it will absolutely make Brighton a must-win at home when they come back from the international break. It probably already is, to be frank. But there were signs of progress today. There were things to be encouraged by. The goal we spoke about, the opening goal, 29th minute. But as I say, Everton sat back a bit at the end of the first half. McLean pulled a shot just wide. Matthias Norman fired a good long-range shot, which Jordan Pickford did well to turn around his post. So at half-time, the away fans, the Norwich players went off in that corner and just next to the away fans. They really gave them a good reception as they went off the pitch at half-time because their tails were up, really. And then Norman again after the break. It was a really good bit of play, and then he shimmied his way past, I think it was Allen, and unleashed a really powerful shot, which was swerving, and Pickford did well to turn it over. So 2 good efforts from Norman there. And the good Gibson header that I mentioned earlier, that was from a McLean cross. That all came from brilliant play from Max Aarons, who got Lucas Digne booked. He just literally knocked it past him, went round him, left him for dust, and got hauled back eventually. Digne actually, Farke thought he should have got a second yellow before the second goal for blocking with his hand a cross. That was an Aarons cross as well, I think it was. And he didn't. I think the referee thought that it was accidental. So, I think we're getting wrapped up in the press box now. So I will park it there. I think that's pretty much everything covered anyway. So thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. Let us know how nervous you are and how much faith you've got in that as Tim Krul says, that they are going to be able to turn this around. But yeah, we'll leave it there. 2-0 defeat, 6th Premier League defeat on the spin. Worrying times. Thanks very much for watching.